Welcome to the Gab Talks by the Independent Press Award. I'm your hostess, Gabby Olzak. To participate in the 2026 Book Award competitions, please visit independentpressaward.com and NewYorkCityBigBookAward.com. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm so excited for all of you folks to meet Craig Ford, award-winning author, freelance cyber journalist, and cybersecurity professional from Brisbane, Australia. Craig and I first met in April at this year's book camp during a mini Gab Talks. It was a lot of fun and we wanted to do more. So Craig is a best-selling author of the A Hacker I Am cybersecurity series and the award-winning Foresight series, which is a cyberpunk series of novels that dive into the worlds of a hacker. Her name is Sam. He recently co-authored The Shadow Worlds, a primary school kids cybersecurity awareness series. Craig, welcome. Congratulations. So great to see you again.
Absolute pleasure to be here, and thank you very much.
Thank you. I mean, I feel like I'm in the twilight zone right now because you're just waking up in Australia, and it's Thursday for you, it's Wednesday for me, it's winter for you, summer for me. So I'm confused. How about you?
Yeah, it's a little strange. It's like you're in the past and I'm in the future. It's very interesting.
It's crazy. It's like I'm in an alternate reality worlds right now. So I think what we're talking about is pretty apropos. I want to know a lot, share a lot about your background. But first, let's tantalize our viewers and let's talk about Foresight series because it's really, really interesting. You've written 6 books. There are 3 books in the Foresight series, Foresight, Shadow, and Vulcan. Foresight received a winner in the 2025 New York City Big Book Award in the teen category. Congratulations. And a DF in the 2025 Independent Press Award, also in the teen category. So Craig, tell our listeners what the series is about and what actually inspired you to write it.
Definitely, I can do that. So probably the easiest way is to sort of explain is the young sort of female protagonist, Sam. So she's a ethical hacker. I wanted to, when I was writing the book, I wanted to show kind of a real world grounded kind of look of, what a life as a hacker would be for people that want to have a bit of an interest in that space or, like that kind of world. So I created this lead female character, and there's a reason behind why I created her in a minute, but I'll tell you that shortly. But essentially what you do is in first person, real time, you get to be in her mind, follow her decisions, why she goes down certain paths, and really dive deep into that sort of ethical hacker kind of space, which obviously for someone that's outside of that space, it's a very interesting kind of world. But for myself, I wanted to, because I've been in the industry for 20 plus years, I've been in IT and cyber, and I have that, I guess you would say, that ethical hacking kind of background. So when I created the series, I wanted it to be as real world and grounded as you could, with a little bit of a Hollywood flair to make it a bit more fun, of course. But it sort of follows the journey, and I sort of created, so the lead female character, Sam Foresight, and then in book 2 in the series, I switched to Shadow, which is the actual bad guy's perspective, because I wanted to show the yin and the yang of where decisions in the ethical hacking kind of world can send you down the good path or the bad path. But so it's sort of first person, you get to show those different perspectives and really got to dig deep into that ethical hacking space. But to kind of answer your question of why I wrote it, I'd sort of been, writing and sort of doing a regular column for the Women in Security magazine, a magazine sort of founded here in Australia by Abigail Swaby. Essentially, I'd been writing the regular column since they started the magazine itself. And as a man in the industry for the Women in Security magazine, I'm like going, what could I do to sort of help share my knowledge, help, kind of encourage more young girls a bit of an interest in cyber. So that's where Foresight was born. I wanted to create that lead female character, spark a bit of an interest in that teenage audience and show them that it's not a boys' club, essentially, and just really open that market a little bit.
In fact, I think, Craig, you said that and correct me, is this worldwide that there are only 15 to 17% of these cyber worlds participants are women?
Yeah, roughly 17%. I think it fluctuates a little bit, 17 to 18%, depending on where you are in the world. But specifically here in Australia, 100%, 17% participation for females in this industry, which is ridiculously low if you ask me.
Ridiculously low. I love that you created Sam. So Sam is, as you mentioned, your protagonist in Foresight, and she struggles between her self and her cyber persona, who is Foresight. Now, you say she's an ethical hacker, just like you. For those unfamiliar with that term, and I am one of them, what is an ethical hacker?
So essentially, an ethical hacker is somebody that kind of does what the bad guys and girls do, that the bad hackers, that they sort of go out there and they break systems and sort of get in and find those vulnerabilities in systems. But the main difference is they do it usually with permission first. They'll go out there and they get permission from organizations to kind of pull apart their systems and find where the problems are. And essentially it's for the good reasons. So they're actually doing the same as what the bad people do, but doing it for the right reasons to help people make them more secure and more protected and safer for everyone else.
And the second book, the second
Shadow?
book
Yep.
is, Shadow. He's kind of the bad guy who is not hacking ethically. And I love the way you're showing your readers, what can happen if they choose a different path. It's really interesting that you did that.
Yeah, and I sort of wanted to deliberately do it because I know quite a few people, like I've been in this sort of the ethical hacking, sort of pen testing sort of space and security space for a while, and it's really easy to go from one side of that sort of the right side or the wrong side. So it's really comes down to decisions.
You're really a champion of women in cyber. You've been a passionate advocate for women in cybersecurity. As you mentioned, you're a regular columnist for Women in Security magazine. And I understand you are also one of 7 children raised by your father, and you have 4 older sisters. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Wow. So how did your upbringing shape your passion for supporting women in the industry? And did that somehow drive you to cyber security as well?
I think, to answer that in sort of 2 answers, I think the upbringing certainly gave me a little bit more of insight of, having those 4 older sisters. I got to interact with them quite a lot. So it made me, a little bit more open to sort of what they liked and what they didn't like, I guess. But I think the reason around the diversity side of things, I'm a big believer in, I don't think it matters if you're a man, woman, what ethical background you have, but specifically in cybersecurity, the problems we have are so complex and so challenging and so difficult for us to try and solve. And particularly from the bad guys' perspective, it really only takes them one thing to find and get into our systems, but we have to get a million things right to stop them. So I think the different perspectives from both men and women and the different backgrounds we can have are so important in our space. And the fact that, like we said, 17% female participation is ridiculously low, considering we need those different perspectives, the different ways of looking at it. And, obviously, the way I look at something might be different to the way that you look at something. And, our backgrounds and our experiences, and even, growing up with 4 older sisters makes me look at something different to somebody that would grow up with no older siblings or younger siblings. So I think it's really important to kind of support that diversity as much as possible. And yes, personally, I think, that 17% is ridiculously low. So I do everything I can to try and, foster and share my sort of experience in that space and try and encourage more. But I think overall we have a lot of work to do, diversity in general. And I think that the more we can focus on that and really try and build that, I think the better we'll be in the cyberspace.
You don't just talk about making a difference. You actually, Craig, put your beliefs into action. It seems like your whole career really is about education and advocacy. And I think that's really incredible and admirable, which I guess is why you're, really in Australia, certainly. We're hoping to make an impact worldwide with your company and with everything you do. And we'll talk about cyber unicorns, but you co-authored Shadow World with Katie Randall, which won the 2025 Independent Press Award for ebooks. You've helped donate more than 6,500 copies of Shadow World to schools across Australia. I want you to tell us a little bit about the book, what it's about, and what your goal was when you created it.
Yeah, definitely. And crazily enough, I think we're up to nearly 8,000 copies we've donated now. So it's the number keeps growing, which is great. So, but essentially,
Congratulations.
cybersecurity and the education and just everyday users of the online world, like the online world is a scary kind of place. And particularly if you don't understand some of this stuff, there's a lot of bad stuff as well as good stuff. It's still, I think, a great place to learn and grow and sort of educate yourself. But there's so much bad stuff. But I feel that the online safety and how to interact with this space is just as important as learning to swim or learning to ride a bike when you're growing up. So I have this kind of idea that essentially as an adult, we kind of, we've got our formed habits, we have our good behaviors and our bad behaviors. And we've been teaching cyber education for adults for years and years and years. And it slowly turns the dial and then slowly helps improve as an adult. But as children, when we start to use the online world, you have none of those formed behaviors. So by creating the book and creating that cyber education for those younger generations, it really helps them form those right kind of habits right from the beginning. So we don't have to then later in their life break those bad habits, because it's much harder to break a bad habit than it is to form the right habit to start with. So I feel that teaching those really young kids as they start to interact the right kind of way, they'll still make mistakes, and everyone makes mistakes, that's normal, but teaching them some of those right habits and the right ways to interact and the right things to identify when risks are there really sets them up better for life, like that learning to swim. Obviously, if you have those right skills, you're much better and much stronger in that sort of world. So the shadow world was kind of around that idea of giving them the life skills that they need before they started interacting too strongly with that online space.
And so kids really know what questions to ask. And on the flip side, so parents know how to answer the questions.
Yes, 100%. So essentially, there's roughly 19 topics inside the book, and the questions at the end of each of them is kind of a deliberate way to kind of, because I feel the best way to educate both the parents and the children is to open those conversations, so the parents learn what the kids are interacting with, what they're doing, and how the whole scenario plays out. So by giving them questions to ask and prompts to have real conversations, both sides learn dramatically from that, and it forms that, I feel, the stronger kind of connection between the children and the parents around that situation. Particularly if something bad happens, it's really important that they feel comfortable to come to the parents and go, this is what's happened, can you help me with this, and feel really safe in that space. So it's fostering that whole open conversation, which is really important.
Feel safe in that space. I think that's the key line there. Craig, I read something that you said. You said if the shadow worlds can save one child from suicide or mental health issues, it was worth all the effort. That's a really powerful statement. How has cyberbullying changed childhood, and how do you hope the book can make a difference?
It is a pretty full-on statement, and it's one I definitely stand by. I think if it, all the effort, all the work, even the donations and the value to that, if you can save one child from sextortion or cyberbullying, and particularly that suicide space, which is a horrible thing to happen, 100% worth the effort completely. But generally, cyberbullying today, like when I was growing up, essentially, if you got bullied at school, you left the gates at school and you went home, and it was kind of over for the day, and you kind of had a bit of a safe space to go to. But in the world we live today, it never kind of stops. Like the online world, the digital world is always there, and it's always on, and it doesn't matter. They can't really get that disconnect. So I think it's kind of the idea of, yes, like it's literally, it's like the digital world. It's like they're connected to it all the time. They never disconnect, and it's that constant connection, so that there's never any escape from this bullying or the online messaging or the emails or the social media side of things. Like a few countries are doing some of the social media bans like we do in Australia, but I still think over 70% of kids are still online. But we'll talk about that later, of course. But essentially, the whole idea was to just give them the understanding and the skills so they can go, I can understand what's happening here. I can feel safe to have a conversation with a trusted adult and just make them know that it's kind of, there is an escape from some of this. You can disconnect. It's okay to kind of ask for help in this space. But yeah, literally it's just trying to go, it's okay to disconnect, and it's okay to put your hand up and say, I need some help. This is too much, and have those real conversations. But
Craig, you're a dad. What do your own children think about your books, your work, and has a parent, has being a parent influenced the way you communicate cybersecurity to younger audiences?
Yeah, 100%. I think my oldest daughter, she loves my stuff. I think she's a bit of a proud daughter, which is kind of nice. My son's a bit too young, just got to worry about it too much. But yes, I think they definitely have. Like I see like even as a parent, you walk around like a shopping supermarket or a shopping center and you see kids on the tablets and kids on the phones, which is, it's your parental choice what they let their kids interact with. But it really concerns me what these kids are seeing, what these kids are interacting with, and both sides don't understand the risk in that. So I kind of, as a parent, it kind of drives me to really kind of help that space as much as I can. But it's still an ongoing thing, and I think it's the technology world changes and adapts so much. It's a constant curve. But yes, 100% being a parent definitely drives it and makes me kind of change the way I communicate, because the way I write, particularly even with Foresight, it's that very teen sort of adult kind of phase. So it was a bit more interesting to try and make that for the younger audience. But I think I did reasonably okay.
I want to circle back to social media. So you were a very outspoken critic of Australia's social media ban for children under 16. What were your concerns when it was introduced? And now that it's in place, do you see any positives or unintended benefits of it? Because it's very interesting. I was talking with my own kids. The youngest ones are 19 and 21, and they actually think it's a great idea. Of course, they're not living it, so it's easier to say when you're outside of it. But talk to me about that.
Yeah, definitely. And you are right. I was very much a very vocal advocate against it. And there's a particular reason, which I'll explain. Essentially, I love the idea that they're trying to do something to help protect these kids. And the social media, don't get me wrong, social media is a horrible place. And I call it sometimes the petri dish of the online world. Like there's some really horrible things in there. But my concern specifically, we've been working particularly in the cyberspace for kind of, I guess you would say, probably the last 7 to 10 years of really educating and kind of fostering that open conversation thing that I was talking about earlier. But the problem with the social media ban is essentially, if you look at the Australian version of it, they say the statistics are essentially probably 60 or 70% of those teens are still using social media. So it hasn't completely removed teens from social media. So it's kind of hasn't got the full potential. So to me,
they will find a way.
Yes, and they always will, though. They will always find a way. It's like even shadow IT in an organization. If there's a roadblock in front of someone, they'll always find a way to get to where they need to be. So it's just normal human nature. But essentially what the problem to me was is not the fact that they're trying to help reduce the effects of social media, because there is problems there and there is definitely work. But it's, to me, is as soon as you ban something, those teens will then hide it. So they won't have open conversations, particularly if we're talking around sextortion, cyberbullying. If they're not supposed to be in that environment and it's against the rules, as you would say, they're not going to go have a conversation with their parents around this and saying, someone's, extorting me to try and get, money because I've sent a photo or something like that of myself, or, someone's bullying. They're not going to have that open conversation, which to me, when we're talking around that bad sort of teen suicide and things like that from this kind of activity, you need that open, real conversation and that comfort to go, I'm going to put my hand up. I need help. I need someone to assist me in this. I'm a bit above, I'm sinking. I'm sort of struggling in the space. So if by making it against the rules, they stop doing that. And I think the conversations is more important than keeping them out of the space. Yeah. So essentially to me, it was never really around don't do anything. Can we look at a different way to do this so that we still educate them and show them how to navigate these spaces? And yes, I 100% think make these social media platforms give better parental controls and make it so parents can put some, guardrails around and some restraints and some better protections. But the complete blanket ban and making them hide it is really, really bad for all of us because we can't really make that difference. We won't have a conversation about it.
You've often said, Craig, that we need more positive role models in cybersecurity, and I agree. Who were the people who inspired and mentored you throughout your career, and what qualities about them made a difference to you?
I think to me, most of probably maybe a little bit of my stubbornness and probably that I've got from life, I think is a little bit from my dad. I think my dad has kind of probably been my biggest influence. He's not in the tech space. He doesn't even like to turn a computer on, but we won't hold that against him. But essentially, he's always taught me that if you see a problem, you should do something about it. You should try and sort of see if you can fix it, actually do something positive with things. And if the other thing he always used to teach me, if you fall over and scratch your knee, brush yourself off and get up and try again. So I think that positive kind of reinforcement has kind of really driven me in my life to kind of really try and make that difference and really try and push and, leave the world, I guess, in a little bit of a better way than when I first entered it. So,
Craig, do you have a copy of Foresight? I want folks to see the cover.
I do indeed. Yes, Foresight here.
Excellent. And have you received any feedback from any young people out there, maybe young women?
I have indeed. It's kind of, I wasn't entirely sure what the response would be. Obviously, I'm sort of putting the effort in and see if I can make a bit of a difference, but I've had quite a few careers advisors and, people from schools here in Australia that reach out and say that they've really had some young girls sort of connect with the book and really sort of spark that interest. So I think, and I've had that probably 3 or 4 different times. So I think there's at least 4 people I know that I've sort of sparked a bit of interest from writing the book. So if that's all I get, I'm 100% happy. But yes, the feedback is really great, which is what I love.
Well, looking back over your career, you've been in cybersecurity for more than 20 years now. How has it evolved, and what changes would you most like to see in the industry over the next decade or so?
Yeah, 100%. It's a very different industry from when I started, for sure. I think probably the biggest thing for me around, particularly the cybersecurity space, it was not even called cybersecurity when I started doing cybersecurity. That's how long I've been in the space. So I think it was just in the IT group originally. But essentially, the biggest thing I find which is a real positive, is cybersecurity was kind of a real closed off kind of, niche kind of group of people where they didn't let any outsiders in. You're either in the group or you weren't in the group. But now it's very more, we're open, we're more out in the conversations, everyday kind of people really trying to, educate and share and sort of, adopt that more wider community kind of stance, which I think is amazing. And I hope we continue down that path and we see a lot more of that those real open conversations and be more than just tech people, be educators in that space, which is what I really kind of strive to be. Being weirdly a very, very technical person, I really love the communication side, which is not a thing you always get together in the same person. So I love the education side of it. And I think over time, I think it's going to be more and more important. Yeah.
Well, tell us about Cyber Unicorns. That's your company that you founded.
Yes. So Cyber Unicorns, almost 3 actually. It's 3 in the next couple of weeks, which is pretty exciting. So 3 years old, but essentially
your announcement on
Cyber
Instagram,
Unicorns.
yeah.
Yes. So essentially what it is I don't know, I was sitting in a really comfy CTO role in a job I loved, by the way, in an organization I quite loved, doing really good things, particularly in that diversity space. But essentially I was sitting there and I was going, I I couldn't do more for that organization, but I really had been sitting there and having conversations like this going, someone needs to go out there and, help with the education and create that kind of more community education and really sort of make a bit of a difference in that space. And I kept going, someone should do it. Someone should do it. And then I'm like, in a random conversation, I just kind of stopped and went, no, I should do it. Instead of keep saying someone should do it, I decided I should do it myself. And Cyber Unicorns, there's a little bit of a story behind it, which I can tell you. Essentially, Cyber Unicorns in the cybersecurity sense is essentially someone, like I said, that is very, very technical, but is very, very good at communicating, which is kind of rare in our space. You either get someone that's really good at communicating, or you get someone that's really technical, and I'm actually both. So in the cyberspace, a unicorn is that. So hence this unicorn. But the little story behind it with the wife and I was when I was talking around creating Cyber Unicorns, or creating the company, and what I wanted to do, I actually called myself a unicorn in the middle of a shopping center, and a poor lady behind me heard me say it, and she almost spat a drink out on the floor and was laughing. So to me and my wife, it's a bit of an inside joke of going, it's a bit of a fun kind of, you should call it Cyber Unicorns because it's kind of funny, and there's a bit of an inside thing for us. So yeah, so there's twofold reasons why it's Cyber Unicorns. And obviously with the kids' cyber education, the unicorn, we have what they call a reflective service wrap on our cars, and it jumps out at you, the unicorn, a big one on the side of the cars. So yeah, it really helps pull the kids in and sort of grab that attention for the education. So
No, it definitely does. I think we're all concerned about this. What's the most practical advice you can give our listeners, give me, give all of us to protect ourselves from hackers, not ethical hackers, the actual bad guys, scams, identity theft in today's digital world? What can we do?
I think that there's a couple of things that most people can do. And to be honest, I'm a really big fan of the basics. I think if you can do the foundation basic stuff right, you make yourself probably 90% less of a potential victim for the sort of malicious actors or the hackers. So essentially multi-factor authentication. So getting the token on your phones for every account, or doing, simple. It's annoying. A lot of people sit there and go, I don't want MFA. I don't want to have to get a token every time I log into something, but it gives you that second layer of protection. So if I steal your password, I still need that MFA token to get in. So making sure that you put MFA on everything, please put MFA on everything. And the other thing is passwords. A lot of people are still reusing passwords, and it is one of the biggest issues that I think in the industry, that most people use a password manager like LastPass or OnePass or something simple like that. And the reason behind it is everyone goes, but if I put all my passwords inside this password manager, what happens if it gets breached? But these are encrypted passwords. So even if they break into the accounts 9 times out of 10, they don't get your passwords anyway. But if you're putting MFA, you're still protecting those accounts. But essentially, the password manager can help create really long passwords you will never remember. That'll keep your account so secure it's not funny. But you can put a passphrase, which is, to explain a passphrase is multiple words put together, no complex symbols, no uppercase or lowercase numbers or anything like that. Something simple. I like things like, purple dragon donkey soup or something like that. Something that's silly and funny to you, that's easy to remember. But you can put that one strong, easy to remember password on the outside of your password manager and let it remember all the rest. But you get the benefits, because if all of your accounts on every different platform has a different password and one gets breached, you can reset that one password, all the rest are safe. But if you use the same password on all your accounts and one gets breached, then a hacker can use that for all of your accounts. So essentially, the simple, easy stuff is the best. And my biggest advice for anybody, and it's probably the one that will save you the most, particularly in email scams or online scams, is a healthy level of suspicion. And it doesn't mean to be paranoid about everything, but if you sit there and look at something and go, that looks a little off and I'm not sure that's a good idea, or if that's too good to be true, it probably is. So healthy level of suspicion will save you probably 80% of the time.
That's awesome. Yep. So Craig, I have to ask you, and you definitely are a unicorn because you're obviously highly technical and proficient, and you are also an incredible communicator. How did you go from being in the tech world to writing teen cyberpunk series of books?
It's an interesting progression actually, and the funny thing is that particularly, I think I'm up to book number 7 now, writing number 8. But literally, and I think I've written probably more than 400 articles for online magazines and things like that, seen for different publications. So, but literally, if you'd have asked me maybe 8.5 years ago if I would write an article or I would write any book at all, I probably would have laughed. It was never really an aspiration to do it. It was really out of finding a problem that I wanted to talk about, that I wanted to discuss, that kind of drove me down that path. And yeah, it's kind of strange now because I absolutely love doing it and I love the writing and I love the educating, but it was zero interest to start with. It was never that natural kind of aspect or something I thought I would do. So it's definitely a change to where I thought I would be in that technical space. And even now I do like conversations like this, but I do keynote talks in conferences and things with 10,000 people in the audience, and I'm like going, I'm naturally an introvert. And I hated public speaking when I first started. I literally was terrified. Yeah, it really was so uncomfortable. It wasn't funny, but I kept doing it and I kept doing it because I wanted to spread the message and I wanted to do the education. I wanted to share what needed to be said. And I'm like going, I had the passion, and the more I did it, it's kind of like the writing now. I'm so comfortable on that stage now. I can't even remember why I was worried about it when I first started doing it. But it's strange how the career changes and how you sort of grow to love something that you never expected. So.
Yeah, well, they do say publishing is an accidental career for many of us. So, we first met at book camp in New York earlier this year, and you went on to receive several major awards, including the 2025 New York City Big Book Award for Foresight, the Independent Press Award honors for both Foresight and the Shadow World. What did that recognition mean to you personally? And tell us what you're working on next, how this propelled you in your future writing and your mission to educate through storytelling.
That's a big question. I'll unpack that one slowly. So I think probably firstly, like as an Australian author, a country boy, I grew up in a small little country town, and sitting there and receiving international kind of awards from New York, which I feel is the home of books, right? Like it's the place for literary kind of excellence, I feel. So it's, receiving, 4 now awards from the US, I think is exceptional, for an Australian author. It's pretty stoked, to be honest. I think I would never have expected it. And I think it's definitely amazing. So, and I think that the biggest thing for me out of it is, yes, the awards are amazing and it's great to have the recognition, but it's some of the coverage it's getting the books, and particularly the Shadow World, and some of the reasons why I sort of do the writing and do the education, I think is, for me, probably the biggest benefit and the biggest reward out of it, because they see the awards, they see the recognition, and they go, wow, maybe this is something I should have a look at, and they read the books and then they pass it on, and it helps spread that education and that mission that I'm trying to do. So I think the awards are amazing and I love them, but I love the effect that they kind of have on pushing those books and getting that message out there. So it's a twofold thing for me. Amazing to even call myself an international award-winning author. It's pretty amazing, but that push, that really sort of drive to get that message out is amazing. Particularly having that recognition and sort of helping build the profile, not just in Australia, because I have a reasonably good coverage in Australia, but it's now growing to be a bit more of a global space, which is amazing. And really getting that cyber education, particularly with cyber unicorns and the kids book, and going, we can actually make a difference in this space and keep spreading that communication, because it's alone you can't succeed. You need that community, you need that sort of society to come behind it and sort of really help grow that. So I think it's amazing all together in one. And I've still kind of pinched myself sometimes and go, wow, I still didn't expect that, but it's great.
Well, you have a few more books coming out, so maybe we'll see you in Book Camp 2027 as well. That would be fantastic.
I'm hoping so. Yes, definitely. It's and
Tell
to
us
probably
about
answer
the
your
new
question,
book.
I didn't
Yeah.
answer your question about what I'm doing next. So I'm writing Hammer, which is the next installment to the Foresight series. So essentially, there's Foresight book 5 now for the Foresight series. So there's Foresight, Shadow, Vulcan. The Glimmer is my newest one, which is the one that just came out a few months ago. And now I'm writing Heaven, which is the next installment in that line. So essentially what I did is to not give away too much around the series, but I've got Foresight in the first book. So you see her main character, and then you switch to Shadow, the bad guy's perspective. And then Vulcan is where they come together and they form a bit of a more of a hacking group. And then Glimmer introduces one of those characters in her story and really dives deeper into that gritty kind of space in the hacker world. And then with Hammer, he's one of the other characters, and I also have Deadly Rose, which will be the next one along. So I'm really giving you the full story around each of those characters, but then meshing the whole thing back together so you see the intertwined stories and bring it all back together. So it's complicated to write, but it's it's really pulling everyone into that sort of real hacker world and grounding it, I feel, in a little bit of a Hollywood flair, but actually what you could really do and really see in a space. And someone with that 20 plus years experience, I wanted to bring that authenticity to it. So lots more to write and lots more to do. And then I think I have a teenage version of my kids' book sitting in here that I want to write as well to kind of extend and grow that education with the book. So,
Wow. This is exciting. So let me, the Foresight series, I know a lot of folks are going to have this question. Can they be read standalone, or do you have to read them in order and or can you read them one by one?
I've actually been told, I've had a few people where they picked up my newest book, Glimmer, and they've actually read it, without reading the other ones first. And it still makes sense. But I feel it would be better if you read it from start to finish, because there's still crossing over stories, a bit of a theme through it. So a bit of that, because it always ties back to Foresight. So Foresight is kind of the anchor through the whole story, and it keeps connecting back through. So I think, yes, it would be easier if you read it from book 1 to book 2, but they kind of are standalone to a point, but their stories still connect and cross over, and some of the things won't make sense. You'll sit there and go, what is he on about, if you haven't read the ones before it? So it kind of would make sense to read them together. But yes, in theory, I've been told you can read whichever one you want first and then go back and figure out what happened first. So either way, yes, you could.
That's great. So before we part, Craig, please share where we can find out a little bit more about you, your work, and of course, purchase your books.
Yeah, definitely. So probably the easiest way to find me is through the Cyber Unicorns website. So it's cyberunicorns.com.au. But the books themselves, you can find them pretty much in any of your favorite bookstores, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, wherever you would like. They can be pretty much gotten through pretty much even your local bookstores. So if they don't have it, they can certainly get it. But if you want a signed copy, obviously come to my website and I can hook that up for you as well. But yes, weirdly, as a security guy though, I'm very, very easy to find. So if you Google me, you can find me really easy, which is a little on the strange side as a security guy.
There we are again. So this was so much fun, Craig. Thanks so much for chatting with us today, for waking up early on our Wednesday, your Thursday. We really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll meet again at Book Camp 2027, where you will maybe receive a few more awards. Who knows?
You never know our luck. But yes, 100%. Hopefully definitely see you again this year. Or next year now, isn't it? Yes.
Next year. Great. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
No worries. Thank you very much.
And folks, thanks for tuning in. This is your hostess, Gabby Olzak of the Gab Talks. Until next time, keep on reading.